Hello, everyone. My name is Pradeep Nayak. I'm at the University of Waterloo, but I'm also representing the Vulnerability to Viability Global Partnership for Strengthening Small-Scale Fisheries. Welcome to the webinar series. I will be hosting this. First, I would introduce the B2B Global Partnership and then the B2B webinar series, and I will introduce our speaker today before we are able to hear the talk that is scheduled for today. So first, the introduction to the B2B Global Partnership, which is a transdisciplinary research, knowledge, and action network with over 100 members in Africa, Asia, Canada, and internationally. The goal of the partnership is to support small-scale fisheries in their transition from vulnerability to viability. And the way we understand vulnerability and viability in our context of work is not just using economic sense, but also to use and include the various aspects of fishers' lives that can span, the cultural, the political, the ecological aspects of their existence. Our focus is fourfold. The first is to create or co-create and co-produce the knowledge that is required for the transition from vulnerability to viability. Second is to create a repository where this knowledge can be placed. Therefore, it can be used across all levels, starting from the community to the government to the civil society in ways that is useful and meaningful. The third objective that we are focusing on is to develop transdisciplinary capacity across all these levels so that people can engage in the transition from vulnerability to viability of small-scale fisheries, and also engage in processes of synthesizing, integrating the knowledge in ways that it can feed into the policy, action, and academic processes. The B2B Global Partnership aims to identify the diverse factors, conditions contributing to the vulnerability of small-scale fisheries and engage collaboratively with small-scale fisher communities and other key NGO, government, and university partners to enhance small-scale fishery viability. We are conducting transdisciplinary community-engaged research in 6 countries in Asia, which includes Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, Thailand, and 6 countries in Africa. That includes Ghana, Malawi, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa, and Tanzania. In doing so, the B2B Global Partnership brings people and organizations together across physical, cultural, and disciplinary boundaries through a shared interest in addressing global change impacts on small-scale fisheries. The B2B thematic webinar series, for which we have gathered here virtually today, is an initiative of the B2B Global Partnership to facilitate and generate high-level discussions on vulnerability and viability themes and topics within the context of small-scale fisheries. The goal is to feature academic, government representatives, practitioners, and members of the civil society who have made significant contributions to the theoretical, practical, and policy aspects of small-scale fisheries, both locally and globally. B2B thematic webinar series takes place on the last Friday. This is an exception this month. We are having it on a Thursday, but it typically takes place on the last Friday of every month, and it will continue to be so until the end of this year, and then we'll have a new series next year in 2023. The series is available internationally through live streaming on YouTube. Details regarding this series is available at www.b2bglobalpartnership.org. Today's seminar is the 11th in the series of B2B thematic webinar planned for the year 2022, and the 23rd since we started in January 2021, when it was started actually. It is my privilege to introduce Dr. María José Espinosa-Romero as our distinguished speaker today. Welcome, María. Dr. Espinosa-Romero is well known for her work on community-engaged biodiversity conservation with a human face that involves small-scale fisheries, ecosystems, and communities as key areas of focus. She is presently the CEO the Director General of Comunidad y Biodiversidad, COBI, a Mexican nonprofit organization that promotes sustainable fishing and marine conservation in Latin America and the Caribbean through community-based approaches. Dr. Espinosa-Romero is also the co-founder of Innovación Azul Initiative, which is a transformative social venture for sustainable fisheries. The goal of that particular initiative is that by 2027, the initiative intends to reach 300,000 fishers in Mexico and 1.2 million fishers in Latin America by 2030, connecting them with each other, with organizations, and with investors to work towards resilient communities and healthy oceans together. Over the past decade or so, Dr. Espinosa-Romero has contributed to continue to dedicate herself to the mission of promoting marine conservation and sustainable fishing through effective participation of community and other major collaborators. Dr. Espinosa-Romero received her Ph.D. degree in governance and public policy from the United Nations University and Maastricht University in the Netherlands. Prior to that, she completed a master's degree in natural resource management and environmental studies from the University of British Columbia in Canada. She has extensive experience in fisheries management and research, including ecosystem modeling, governance of social environmental systems, economic policy, conflict resolution, among a few others. It is my honor today to invite Dr. María José Espinosa-Romero to deliver today's talk for the B2B Thematic Webinar Series 2022, and her talk is titled as Sustainability at Scale, Connecting Small-Scale Fishers for the Mobilization of Local Knowledge, Solutions, and Capital Opportunities. Thank you for joining us, María José, and the floor is yours. We're looking forward to hearing you talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratip, for this kind introduction. It's an honor for me to be here in the B2B Global Partnership Seminars, and I'm very happy to present the work that COBI, Comunidad y Biodiversidad, has been doing in working sustainability at scale. Let me share the screen for the presentation. And here we are working on this sustainability at scale by connecting small-scale fisheries for the mobilization of knowledge, solutions, and capital opportunities. And just to start the presentation, I invite you to read this recent paper COBI collaborated in which we present the causes of why we do this work. We recognize that the oceans have received the look of society in the last decade to meet global demands and also to drive economic growth. And this economy, this blue economy, is supposed to derive in benefits for coastal communities. But what we are seeing in practice is that there are few benefits and a lot of negative impacts, which can translate into inequalities, displacement, harmful pollution, and also social and cultural harms. So we are inviting to this transformation towards sustainability, which to make sure that we include the social aspects and the equity aspects, not only to ensure human rights, but also to improve well-being in coastal communities. As recommendations, we mentioned in the paper that we need to rethink this paradigm and introduce the social sustainability and equity in policies, debate, deliberation. We have to engage the private sector more in this improving of human well-being, but also we have to take a look at communities and to see the models they are applying to improve their livelihoods. So in this context, I'm very happy to present the work that Comunidad y Biodiversidad is doing. And COBI, Comunidad y Biodiversidad, is promoting sustainable fisheries and marine conservation through effective participation. if you were to ask me what the two elements of COBI are in all the work we do, I would say that is the community-based work. We do everything related to marine conservation and fisheries with hand in hand with fishers. And also we have the second element that we call citizen science, in which we bring traditional knowledge to fisheries management and marine conservation. And this is very important in the context of Mexico and Latin America and the Caribbean, where small-scale fisheries are located in poor information sites and ecosystems. In this map, you can see the sites where we have demonstrative models. We started in the Gulf of California here, and specifically in the Mid-Reef Islands regions. And then when we started here in COBI working in this, we started to expand our work. We migrated, as fish populations do, to the North Pacific, and then to the Caribbean, and then to the Gulf of Mexico. But these are the communities we were working with by 2019. And at that time, we already had worked with different cooperatives, also with 3 ecosystems that included the kelp forest, the rocky reefs, and the coral reefs. And also we were working with different types of fisheries. And we consolidated our work through these marine conservation sites, no-take sites, as I mentioned, different types of fisheries, using different approaches like the fishery improvement projects, certification projects, best practices. We also developed knowledge for these ecosystems in these 3 subregions in Mexico. We were working at the individual levels, at the cooperative levels, and also with fisheries committees. And we also had some incidents in public policies, including these scoring guideposts for the sustainability of Mexican fisheries. And we created a national award for best practices in Mexico. And we were publishing the work we did with communities in international and national journals. And then in 2019, we were thinking, like, what is next for COBI after having these demonstrative models in the coast of Mexico? And we decided to work at scale because we thought that if we wanted to greater our impact in marine conservation and sustainable fisheries, but also in community resilience, we had to expand. The organization had already 20 years of experience in the field. So we thought that these experiences and lessons learned that we had with communities could be shared in other sites of Mexico, but also in Latin America and the Caribbean. So that's why for the strategy we had towards 2027, we wanted to expand the numbers of fishers we work with. We said in 2020, we want to reach 300,000 fishers, and we want to connect them for the co-creation of solutions for communities' resilience and ocean sustainability. This plan was aligned to the 2030 agenda, particularly to the SDGs 5 in gender equality, 8 decent work, 13 on climate action, and 14 all the targets related to the life below water. And we chose those, particularly those SDGs, because we thought that these are necessary conditions for the sustainability of small-scale fisheries. So at that point, in between 2019 and 2020, we already knew that small-scale fishing communities were particularly vulnerable to global shocks and changes, which were highlighted with the pandemic. And also we knew that the fishing can be a lonely activity with little opportunities to to share. But in any case, fishers were making daily decisions to adapt to different changes. Some of their decisions and choices were towards sustainability and social benefits. And those that were towards sustainability and social benefits, we thought that could contribute in a greatly way to fisheries management and marine conservation in the Latin America and the Caribbean region, where fisheries continue to be data poor and also underfunded management and with a weak participation of small-scale fisheries. We also saw during the pandemic that there was a digital transition of fishers, which we thought that is a good opportunity to accompany this transition. And we know that in marine fisheries, small-scale fishers face complex problems that require innovative solutions. We thought that if two heads can think better than one, 300 would come up with more innovative solutions. So we thought that by consolidating this network of fishers in Latin America, we could mobilize these knowledge, solutions, and capital opportunity, which could lead to more innovation in these sectors. And we thought that we can manage this great network of fisheries by consolidating a group of representative and experienced fishers that help to create these common visions and also support the network in the development of an action plan, and also to make sure that the governance is well set. So for this strategy, we created 3 lines of actions and some transversal lines. Here are the lines of actions we have for this strategy. The first one is innovation, where fisheries, in which we connect fishers through a digital infrastructure. The connectivity line of work, in which we create a collective action network that ensures that the solutions are incubated, accelerated, and that ensures that the solutions are financially sustainable. And the scaling up line of work, which expand the work of COBI, or with this community-based approach through alliances in Latin America, so fishers can connect and exchange solutions in the region. And we have these transversal lines: the gender equality, the new generation of fishers, the citizen science, the incidence in public policy, but also the implementation of a human rights-based approach to pursue environmental and social justice. For the innovation piece, I mentioned that we wanted to connect the fishers through a digital infrastructure. We had this app, Pescadata, which we were using with small-scale fishers for the fishery improvement projects to record their catches. So we decided that instead of creating a new app for this strategy, we would just expand the use of Pescadata. So this is the plan for Pescadata in this strategy, that fishers could have the logbooks, but also other tools for fishing organizations in which they can sell and buy, share information. Also, we wanted to create a module for these solutions related to the SDG 5, 8, 13, and 14 that I mentioned before. We wanted to have these communication channels where fishers can decide which themes they wanted to discuss things about. And we wanted to connect this app to other information systems. And so we started to redesign the app to be interoperable. And we also needed to make sure that this app shows the collective impact of the network. So we decided to create a scheme So the collective action could derive in impact towards the FAO small-scale fishery guidelines and also the SDGs I mentioned before. And with this information, we wanted also to bring capital to the local solutions. So in this plan, we put the small-scale fishers at the center of the ecosystem and recognize that their interactions with the natural elements and with other actors, but also to see how they derive value from these interactions in ways that the knowledge, the innovations, and the capital return to them and also to other stakeholders. So that was the plan between 2019 and 2020, and then the pandemic arrived. So this was a tough time. COBI used to do a lot of community work or work in communities in the field, and we had to stop, mainly because of the sanitary measures, but also because here in Mexico, the communities were very strict in the access to communities. Community members couldn't leave the communities, and also externals couldn't access to community, which was good because they didn't have the health services in the case the virus got in, in the case that people got the virus in the communities. So at that point, we decided first our priority was to don't lose communication with our community partners, but also to raise their voice, because the small-scale fisheries is still a very small sector compared to other productive sectors in Mexico. So we decided to undertake a national consultation to see what the impacts of COVID were in social and economic terms. And this was just, as I mentioned, to give a voice, to raise the voice of small-scale fishers, and also to keep communications with community partners. But once we started, more communities and fishing communities wanted to get involved. And at the end, we decided to undertake this national consultation for the whole year. And also we define with the fishers different themes. You can see them in the top of this slide. We went from social economic impact, the role of the state, local solutions, gender perspective, access to health, technology, environmental impact, in the principles for the new normal. So, and this actually was an important way to keep communication, but also to expand our knowledge about communities, about the impacts of the pandemic. By December, we were already having contact with over 450 people that were participating in the interviews. We pretty much involve all the coastal provinces of Mexico. And from there, fishers wanted to keep communication, to have access to information about recovery measures, about sanitary measures. So we decided to create a WhatsApp group with the participants of the national consultation in order to share the information on COVID. And also we had to accelerate our digital plans in order to bring this space for communication for small-scale fishers. I invite you to read the results of this national consultation which was published in Marine Policy. And also we have two materials on that. One is the translation to Spanish of this compilation of reports. We were publishing these monthly reports and share the reports through the WhatsApp group. But then we make a compilation, which you can see in the middle, which is in the COBI website. You can find it there. And from there, we decided to keep capturing the impacts of the pandemic involving communities, and we first made a photography contest of pictures taken by communities, and this work with the pictures continue until until this year. So and we want to make a book of these photographs, but I think that and the work with the photography was expanded to America Latina. So we thought it was important to see the impacts of the pandemic through the eyes of small-scale fishers. So with this work, we started the expansion of our contacts and also of the realities in the America Latina and the Caribbean region. And then in 2000, we also were exploring how the communities were adopting the technology, and we as we had one of the reports of technology, we could explore how comfortable communities were around using the technology, also how many of them were using them, and how many of them were selling their products through internet, and also how active the communities were in social media. So by 2021, we decided we already had more progress in the Pescadata app, so we could invite the people that were in the WhatsApp group to migrate to Pescadata. We had a social media campaign with a focus on fishers and fishing organizations, and also we hired a call center service to call the cooperatives to see if they wanted to join Pescadata. And we also had a program of local community influencers, and that were based in communities, and also that were doing this work of connecting fishers through the digital infrastructure in their communities, but also through their digital spaces. So when we closed the 2021, we already had 1,000 users in Pescadata, which was the greatest number of people we have worked with. Some of these users are from Latin America, from other countries, in addition to Mexico. We also created the network, the collective action network, to start seeing what types of projects, sustainability projects in the group we had. And we started to collect the solutions that people were developing in the field. At the end of 2021, we had 83 local solutions for communities resilience and ocean sustainability. So this year we decided to continue the work of mobilizing knowledge, but also solutions. We had the module of solutions for fishers this year in Pescadata at the beginning of the year. We designed this module with them using the information we collected the year before. And so we started to populate this module this year with the information we had collected, but also to engage fishers to upload their information and the use of this module to start the mobilization. And we focused this year our work in the new generation of fishers, including women and men, and also the work with fishing organizations. We continue the work with local influencers in communities and also in the digital space. And we also were exploring how Pescadata could be interoperable with other apps. We connected Pescadata with Naturalista just to make the first try, but we have plans to connect it with other apps and systems. And also we started to work on the business plan for Pescadata, and because we have some funding to initiate the technology development, but we know that we need to create a system that is financially sustainable. So we are planning to transfer the app to a social enterprise that we created this year, in which not only the initial funders remain, but where we can also invite fishers to join as shareholders of the app and as owners and as part of the governance system of the social enterprise. So I wanna show you some of the results we have gotten so far with our plans this year. And the first is that by the end of September, we already had 1,800 users in Pescadata. We had 64 fishing organizations already in the app. We have recorded all the vessels or the small-scale fishing vessels within the app. So once these are the ones that are the Mexican ones. So when the fishers enter to the app, they can easily find their vessel. We also collected 100 fishing solutions. We are now in the process of curating these solutions, so they are ready to be mobilized. And we had already 12 countries participating. Of course, most of the users are based in Mexico, but there are 9 countries from Latin America, including Mexico. And we haven't started actions in other countries. So we expect the numbers of users from other countries to increase once we have specific actions in additional countries. We have the Collective Action Network working now with a common vision in which this network, which already has 53 people, 23 women and 30 men, and they are working in 5 themes, but they also have these common visions where they see themselves as a collective voice towards marine conservation and sustainable fisheries, but also as a citizen scientist that produce knowledge for the well-being, and also they have an intergenerational perspective. So they are open and welcoming the new generation of fishers in this work. Here we can see, I see that I left the slide in Spanish, but the different teams, the Collective Action Network is working on, that includes sustainable fisheries, the monitoring, the analysis of COVID, and also the reflection of themes through the use of photography. And I wanted to end this presentation with the findings we have with the work with the new generation of fishers. We have been collecting this data with fishers to know what is the profile of the next generation in order to engage them in the best ways in sustainability efforts. And what we are seeing in the field is that the sons and daughters of people in the fishing sector are now locals, because the fishers used to be foreigners or migrants in most cases, but now we are seeing that there is the sons and daughters are now locals, and they have a sense of place in the communities they live in. Of course, they have higher education, and also a larger percentage is involved in the fisheries through the value chain. And also when we, maybe 10 to 20 years ago, we were hearing that fishers said that they didn't want their children to be involved in fisheries. They wanted their children to have better opportunities. But now we are seeing some of these sons and daughters that went to school come back to the communities and want to be engaged in the fishing activities. We are also seeing a new or other dynamics in the relationships, men and women. And we are seeing that, as especially for those that did study and got higher education, they were used to see women as their peers. So they are more used to do activities with women, but also to recognize the capacities of women. So we are now in the process of transferring the knowledge that has been developed by older generations to this new generation, because we also see that the past generation have a lot of knowledge, not only about the ecosystems, but also about sustainability, that the older generation see the importance of transferring this knowledge to their sons and daughters. So we are exploring ways to do this, but also we see a lot of potential to include this generation because of these new relations between women and men. And yeah, so we are now in the process of integrating this new generation to the sustainability efforts. And we did these regional workshops in Mexico to see what types of solutions they propose in order to have a better future in fisheries. So I wanted to share in general how we are doing and how we are exploring our strategy towards 2027. And I'll be happy to know what you think and to know all the questions you have around that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria Jose. That was very interesting, and the detailed approach that you have taken, starting with the crisis and how you're kind of taking it into the future, systematically is there's a lot to learn, I would say. Definitely, and I would love to talk more about this, and I have questions, but I would say if we have questions from the audience that Sybil can give us from YouTube, then I can start asking that to you. It looks like we still, people take a few minutes to write questions. Yeah. Maybe in the meantime, and I could just start by asking you something that is of really big interest to me. And I'm in South Africa currently attending the World Small Scale Fisheries Congress. And there's a lot of discussion on blue economy, but at the same time, there is also a lot of discussion on what it leads to. And you kind of started your presentation, directing us into that particular domain, that there is a lot of harm that could result from blue economy interventions. So in that context, people have started talking about blue justice and in relation to blue economy. So what are your perspectives on linking the issues of justice, relating to what you said, just the resulting harms from blue economy or potential harms that could result? How do you see that equity and justice issues are going to be rampant, in relation to blue economy interventions?
Thank you, Pratik, for your question. See, precisely for this work I showed at the beginning, we were seeing that these negative impacts translate to injustices like displacement, harmful pollution, etc. And this is where the blue justice come in. And we in the paper, because we were reflecting on this, we were thinking that we need to push not only to protect the human rights with the blue justice approach, but also to improve livelihoods.
Yeah.
It's like not only not to do, not only ensure that we don't do harm, but we need to ensure that we do good, as a collective. So I agree that we need to push the blue justice, and also we need to bring these other actors to our collective, because we need to bring the private sector. We are ready in a way to bring politicians. We have found a way to start involving them, but we need to bring more the private sector and engage them in this process of thinking, of changing the paradigm. And also we of course we need to ensure that the communities are part of this conversation, because they are developing, as I mentioned, very interesting models in which from which we can learn a lot on how to address these issues, because they are in the sites where they are daily adapting to this. So they have a word to say, and we think that even, of course, we are working towards giving them a voice, but we need to keep trying, because I don't think that their voice is already represented in these conversations around blue economy. We are trying to give them a voice in the blue justice, but yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We have now a few questions from the audience. The first one is by Carlos Castano, and Carlos is asking, have you identified positive changes related to markets where fishers using your solutions usually address their production? And if yes, which type of changes?
Well, I think that it will be too soon to say that the changes are because they are using, the app or mobilizing their solutions through the app. But we already see, because of the pandemic, that people were using the e-markets, selling products through social media, and even posting in the app their products and services. And we saw a digital transition that we see as a potential to have access to better markets. We saw that during the pandemic, because people couldn't go and sell door by door or, to the closed markets, they were actually using technology to say what was available, at which price, which quantity of product. So we think that there is an opportunity there, and also they went beyond the usual buyers of their product. So it was like opening a door, but we believe that or we want to recognize that those were their actions, that we weren't saying like you should, but then what we anticipate is that if other fishers or organizations see that others are successful in doing something, they will want to try it and maybe will innovate a bit, because when you learn how someone does something, you don't necessarily adopt it in this exactly same way. You change a bit something that make it work for you in your context. So, but as we are now in the process of collecting solution and posting it, and this was the year of uploading all these solutions and information, I think that we will be able to see how much these solutions are replicated in other sites and which are applied to better markets and all that by next year.
Interesting. Yeah. The second question is from Sylvia Salas. And Sylvia is asking, I would be interested to know if you found a different response in the communities when working on the issues of masculinity, including some kind of resistance given cultural context.
Yeah, I have to say that when we were working on this aspect, actually there is a paper that we published that we invite you to read. I posted in the slides. And I think that when we were working that we chose 3 fisheries and we went to the field and we were exploring this and identifying the different masculinities. I think that there was good because we have a group to work with this team with, and reflect on that. And we even have in the paper some categories talking about reluctant masculinity, transitional masculinity, apprentice. So there was a rich conversation, and we really like the outcome of this work and the results in the paper. And it was like a very clarifying for us and for them. But I have to say that when we post things in social media, if we speak about masculinity or gender equality, instantly we get responses that people don't like it, that why this, why that, and this is not like this, we get negative responses if we are too open or public about this. I think that as we know, as Sylvia knows, this is, as you say, Sylvia, it breaks a bit of the culture, the machismo, but I think that for application, for strategy, for projects, it has to be, in a group context to advance these themes. Otherwise, it can be it can disrupt the dynamics of or what people would want to show to their community. So yeah, with some more reluctancy when we talk publicly about this, but we kind of see interest when we want to work on it in a group context.
Thank you, María José. Another question from Carlos Montero. which do you think should be the role of public administrations or governments to consolidate, improve, and/or scale up your initiatives to a wider impact scope? So how do you scale up for more impact?
Well, I think that the administrators, if we think of them as the government officers, I think that they have an important role to play, because generally the government looks at the scale of fisheries, that usually go beyond communities and even beyond countries, or that's what they should do. So I think that what we were finding when we were working in demonstration models in local communities, we could see changes in the communities, in the governance, but perhaps not at the scale of the fishery, because their actions were, unless the type of fishery was like more sedentary than mobile. But I think that administrators have a big role because they have this responsibility of looking at the scale of fisheries or large ecosystems, and so they would be, or they are potential allies to scale. And also in terms of regulations, if they could look at the best practices and use that as a reference for regulating and managing fisheries at a greater scale, that's another potential role of governors.
Yeah, but scaling up can also depend on the role of other actors in addition to the government. So it is a more collaborative and contributions from others. Okay, so another question, it is by Adrian Nunez, and Adrian is saying, "Thank you, María José. I got the question. I see they have a question related to young people in small-scale fisheries. The question is, what is their perception of their own role, of their own future in the fishing activity? Does it change from the Pacific and Gulf of Mexico?"
Well, I have to look at the differences, because we were taking the workshops, and I think that soon we will be able to see these differences. But in general terms, we could see that in some youth see in fisheries a potential activity and an active role on how to manage their future. So they see that they can do things about it. Some other things that fisheries already collapsed, and that there is not much left from the past generation to them. But I think from those that have hope and they have in mind some solutions on how to, and they want to be engaged, those are the ones that can be engaged, so they can inspire the others. And with respect to the regions, as I mentioned, we will be able to see those changes, because we had these regional workshops where they were not only reflecting on how the ecosystems are, but they were also reflecting on what they could do or how they see their role. But I don't have this information yet. Actually, the last workshop will take place this December in the south of Mexico.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see any more questions, María José. But before I bring it to an end, I would like to ask, so what do you see in terms of this particular initiative going forward? Of course, you have a target for 2030 of 300,000 fishers getting involved and using this. But in terms of other aspects of this particular initiative, what's the bigger plan, and what do you see it's unfolding into?
Yeah, what we would like to see is this collective of small-scale fishers. We have been working with the communities in Mexico, and we think that they can take great leadership in fisheries management. And yeah, as we were mentioning, there is the role of the governors, but COBI decided to place the bet in communities, and we would like to see this collective and with an impact in fisheries and marine ecosystems. So for at least for next year, we want to start looking at the impact, how many, not only which solutions we have and which numbers of people we have engaged, but also what the outcomes of working as a collective are. And to measure this, to see, how different it is from before, from working, as isolated project than if working as a collective. So that's what we would like to see. And of course, that there is a collective of fishers that have a voice in these larger initiatives and development projects, because we know that it's not the same if you want to raise your voice as an individual organization than if you represent a collective with a background experience in the field, in good practices, and related to the marine systems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can I ask you one more a small question, short question? Of course, you are, part of the goal is to achieve resilient, fishing communities and fisheries. And at the B2B, global partnership, we look at, how and what can bring, a transition from vulnerability to viability in small-scale fisheries. So what do you see, the connection for how fishing communities, through this kind of initiatives and the technological intervention that you were talking about, can assist in the process of the transition from vulnerability to viability in Mexican fisheries and Caribbean and Latin American fisheries?
Yeah, I think the role of information is key in this transition from vulnerability to viability. At least from the case of the pandemic, and now we are going to other impacts on small-scale fisheries, like the red zone areas, and for the decrease of oxygen. But anyways, just for the fishers to know, what is what you are vulnerable to, what the impacts of that phenomenon is on you, and what other people is doing around that. And and if you hear it from your peers, see it from your peers, so in some ways you open the door, to new possibilities to you, which it doesn't necessarily reduce your vulnerability, but your resilience could increase, because you are adapting and you are seeing how others adapt, and you can adopt. So that's how I see that this initiative technology and the mobilization of knowledge solutions can lead to from vulnerability.
Yeah, and the adaptation or adaptive responses that they make is, it's collective. So collective action is a key tool that you are using in it, and so the adaptation is not a lonely adaptation or singular adaptation, but it is collective adaptation and collective response, which is much more powerful than singular adaptation at individual or household levels. So that's a nice addition to the connectivity piece that you have in the middle in the frame. Okay, thank you very much. That was interesting. and very informative, and really adds nicely to our exploration of what all are out there in terms of methods, approaches, ideas, and perspectives that helps us better understand the vulnerability to viability transition within small-scale fisheries. And thanks for contributing to that debate, and thanks to our audience also. But don't go. Before we end this, I'm requesting Seville to bring up the poster for the next month's seminar. We generally announce the next month's seminar here. So next month, because it is December and people are going to go into holidays, so we are having the seminar on the 16th of December, which is not the last Friday as I announced. On the 16th of December, we have Dr. Friday Nazja from Malawi Fisheries Department. And Friday is going to talk about towards a viable transboundary small-scale fishery, lessons from Lake Chiuta from Malawi itself. Please join us, next month for another wonderful and interesting talk by Dr. Friday Nazja. Okay. Thank you once again, María José. And thank you everyone for joining us and asking those interesting questions and taking the debates and discussions and the initiatives on small-scale fisheries forward. We're looking forward to interacting more. Thank you once again. Bye-bye.